Hi everyone, Drini here, and welcome to my channel. So, as everybody is still pretty much waiting for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto markets to do something, either we blast off from here or we finally capitulate so that we can get the ball rolling, nothing much is happening to our gaming cryptos except, of course, bleed profusely. Now would be a good time to talk about the industry a little bit. Because if you've noticed over the past year or so, while a lot of play-to-earns have exploded and have garnered multiple player bases, one major player base that keeps rejecting the idea of NFT or play-to-earn games are your traditional gamers. These traditional gamers are fully embodied by the gaming YouTubers who cover the industry and the space. And it begs a very important question that needs to be answered. Why do traditional gamers hate play-to-earns and NFT games so much? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the best way to answer this question is to talk about another service that was popular in the early 2000s, but eventually died down as the years passed by. I'm talking about Groupon. And let's dive in. So for those of you who are old enough to remember Groupon, back in 2008, Groupon launched in Chicago, so the general idea and principle around Groupon was very, very sound. A business, most notably those who are small, can use Groupon to target a mass market of potential customers by offering substantial deals for its products and services. The way it worked was, they would offer a significant discount that you can buy, but only if a significant number of people also bought that deal that Groupon was offering. In theory, this made a lot of sense. The small business gains significant exposure to the market because a lot of people will be using Groupon. And for a potential customer, you are constantly exposed to services that you may not have faced before. So in principle, it's supposed to be a win-win for both of them. However, now that we're in 2022, most of you have probably never heard of Groupon, or most of you acknowledge that Groupon, while it had its heyday in the early 2000s, is no longer anywhere to be found in the current online shopping paradigm. So the problem with Groupon was, while the principles were sound, while the objectives were very clear, there was an overemphasis on the discount aspect of the service rather than the broader principle of bringing businesses and customers together. So as more and more businesses tried Groupon, what they found was when they would post a deal on Groupon, you would have a surge in the number of customers, but a lot of these customers never returned for a repeat purchase. It took a while for everyone to realize that when you have a deal in Groupon, the only people that you are attracting are professional bargain hunters. The main segment that used Groupon wasn't your loyal customer. They were professional bargain hunters moving from deal to deal, trying to exploit the situation by being able to buy services and products at massive discounts. And when the Groupon deal ended, they moved on to the next one, and then they moved on to the next one, and then they moved on to the next one. This eventually led to Groupon's downfall because after the surge in popularity, when businesses started figuring out that the people that they are attracting are not the ones that they want in the first place, then a lot of businesses eventually stopped working with Groupon, and eventually Groupon slowly faded into oblivion. The company is still alive, but it's no longer a major player in the e-commerce and the physical retail space. With this Groupon example, does it sound familiar? In the gaming crypto industry, the major flaw that a lot of these play-to-earn games continue to communicate is they continue to emphasize on the earn aspect of play-to-earns instead of the play aspect of play-to-earns. Because of this major emphasis on the earn aspect, what you have is professional earners who move from one gaming crypto to the other, extracting the value for that game-to-earn ecosystem, and once the value of that particular gaming token has been diminished significantly, then they pack up and move on to the next game. And once the cycle repeats, they pack up, move on to the next game, pack up, move on to the next game, etc., etc. You can actually see this when looking at the relationship between Axie Infinity and Pegasi, because most Axie players were eventually guilds and scholars who keep extracting value because they need to either earn an income or recoup their investments. What happened was you had a massive sell-off of SLP continuously. Back in January of 2022, given that SLP has already lost value as much as 95%, you had a significant number of investors move on to Pegasi. A lot of investors and supposed players and scholars thought that this was the next gaming revolution that will replace Axie Infinity, the so-called Axie killer. So from January 9 onwards, you've had the surge of popularity for Pegasi, where all of these professional gaming income owners were so concerned about making money that Pegasi breeds were at all-time highs, etc., etc. And once you've had that blow off top, what happened? You had to recoup the value of the investments that you've purchased at a very, very high price. Massive sell-off occurred, and eventually, once the value has been extracted from that particular game, you now have major capitulation to the downside. And the people who were wise enough to take profits here, where did they go? They have probably moved to other games in the cryptoverse and are currently doing the same exact thing over and over and over. The YouTuber influencer community also did not help in this case, because when you search for a particular game, these are the thumbnails that appear upon your search. The YouTuber influencer community unfortunately made a deal with the devil, quote unquote, because in order to maximize their views, to either grow their channel or maximize the revenues from advertising, etc., or to just shield the projects to pump up their bags, they needed to emphasize on the most emotional component of this communication, which is the earn aspect. This is the reason why you have all of these guys going above and beyond to make hyperbolic statements about how much you can earn per day, further exasperating the earn aspect of play to earn instead of the more important aspects of community building and focusing on the games itself. So this is the major reason as to why traditional gamers are firmly rejecting the current state of NFT games. The overemphasis on the earn aspect has turned off a lot of them because that is only a secondary component of what makes a traditional gamer invest in a particular set of games. So if you're an up-and-coming game developer coming into the blockchain and crypto space, a word of advice: when you only focus on the earn aspect, if you design your game around the earning aspects instead of the community building, instead of the game mechanics itself, then you are only going to attract the wrong crowd who will extort as much value as they can on the ecosystem before leaving you to rot in the dust.